Now, I love all types of desserts, but the king of desserts would have to be an apple crumble. I just adore it. And I'm going to change mine up a bit by using some berries too. First up, we need to cook our apples. This is 6 large Granny Smith apples, and I've cored them, peeled them, and cut them into 2 centimetre pieces just like this. Now, when it comes to an apple crumble, you don't want to make a compote. We want to stew the apples so they just become tender because we want them to hold their integrity. You'll also notice the apples are in some acidulated water, which is just lemon and water. That keeps them vibrant in colour once they've been peeled. So we'll get rid of that water now, it's done its job. We'll turn the heat onto a medium heat. Now to give these apples some flavour, some vanilla bean paste, about a teaspoon, which represents about 1 vanilla pod. I'll also add some lemon zest, so the zest of about half of this lemon. And I'll just grab a knife and we'll cut this in half. I'll also use the juice of half the lemon too. Squeeze that in. Now we need to give the Granny Smith apples some sweetness because they are quite tart. So we'll add some raw sugar, about 3 tablespoons. And then apples, vanilla, synonymous with cinnamon. So a generous pinch of cinnamon. Now we'll just give that a quick stir and allow them to start to break down. Now while that's happening, let's get onto the crumble, a very classic crumble. We want 2/3 of a cup of plain flour into a bowl, along with a pinch of salt, always with baking, a pinch of salt, just to bring out the flavour of all the other ingredients. Some rolled oats, about half a cup. And the sugar. I'm using raw sugar throughout this whole recipe. I like it because it's quite coarse, so we'll get a slight crunch throughout the dish. So just need a few handfuls of sugar in with the flour and oats. And with your hands, give that a mix to combine it. And now for the butter. It actually looks like cheese once it's grated like this, but in order to get it like this, just place the butter into the freezer for about 1 hour to firm up and then grate it. The reason I do this is because it makes it much easier to crumble. And while it's still cold, using your fingertips, we want to just press the butter in with the dry ingredients until a crumb forms. So I'll continue doing this. It's actually quite therapeutic. We'll wait for our apples to break down and then we'll continue on. Okay, these apples are starting to break down, but they're still holding their shape, so they can come off the heat now, and we can add our berries. Now, I'm using blackberries. Have a look how gorgeous these are. I want to leave them whole because they will break down when they're cooked in the oven. So it's 125 grams of blackberries, and then blueberries. I must say, these are the biggest blueberries I have ever seen. Look how big they are. Size of my eye. These particularly big ones I will break in half. Look at that, bursting with juiciness. And then the others I'll leave whole. So that's 125 grams of blueberries. We'll fold them through as that mixture is still hot, and you'll see it start to just slightly stain the apples. Now I'm going to pour this into a baking tray. So a baking tray that's going to hold them in one even layer. And then we'll spread that out. And the mixture does look slightly dry at this stage, but when those berries do start to burst through the cooking process, they will give off lots of juice. And for our delicious crumble, we're just going to sprinkle that over the top. I'm quite generous with the crumble because I love the crunchiness over the top. I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees, and this is going to cook for about 35 to 40 minutes or until the top is golden brown. Well, doesn't this look fantastic, golden and crispy on the top? And you can see how much the berries have bled into the apple. Now, when it comes to apple crumble and me, it's all about huge portions. I know, I'm a bit of a greedy guts when it comes to this because it is truly one of my favourite desserts. So a generous amount on one side of the bowl. and it's apple crumble. It's got to be served piping hot with really cold ice cream. So a big scoop of cold vanilla ice cream. I've just heated up my ice cream scoop to make it much easier to take out the perfect amount. I'll pop that on the side. So happy right now. So I'm just gonna have a taste. Little ice cream, some of that topping and those berries. There's something very nostalgic about having crumble. I always remember having it as a kid in winter. As a big kid, I love it just as much as I did then.